gosh, what step is that? But when we go back to our action planning this afternoon, thinking about how are we setting up an acknowledgement system that is developmentally appropriate for the grade levels, and how can we give some ownership to those older students to track some of that data?
Yeah.
I like that idea. So looking at kind of student voice, student buy-in, and then ensuring that they're having a voice also in setting up that acknowledgement system. And then looking at a schedule and procedure for regular review and enhancement of acknowledgements. So again, you're not just building the system once and it's done. You might need to tweak, you might need to change. You're going to include student voice to say, is this working for them? Maybe what are some different acknowledgements that they're looking for? And then procedures in place for identifying and supporting students whose behaviors are not responsive. So I think that conversation comes up every time we're here about what do we do for our heavy hitter students, or what do I do about a student who I think needs tier 2 supports. Right now, notice that I just said I think needs tier 2 supports because we don't have a strong tier 1 in place yet. So we don't really know who's not responding. We haven't taught our expectations explicitly to them. We're not reinforcing them for following those expectations. So putting those things in place might change immediately a lot of behavior for some students. However, there's going to be some students, like we saw in our triangle earlier this morning, that do need some additional supports. That goes back to those clear decision rules about how are we flagging kids, and then what are we setting up as far as interventions. One of the most helpful things that you can do is share data with staff. So if staff are filling out your ODR forms during staff meetings, if you can quickly pull up Swiss, share it with them. I think the biggest piece is sharing with them how you're using the data. Because you don't want them getting hung up on like, oh, see, we're writing kids up all the time. They are not behaving. But instead, you want to have an action item tied to that. And then once you do get your acknowledgement system set up, how are you celebrating staff for buying in and using it? So how are we recognizing staff? And then how are we also giving them that data around acknowledgement systems here? So looking at those pieces. And again, we always have to remember that we need to make sense about cultural and context fit here at Ansonia. So we talked about the developmental range that you have here, the range of students you have here, special ed versus regular ed. How are we ensuring that all students are successful with the system? This is the example that I mentioned. So this was a form that a school was using. Take a guess on the different colors there. What does that mean?
Where are the different colors?
So it's white on top, and then there's like
a dark
blue,
color, and then
there's a dark blue, and then there's a light blue on the bottom.
So it's like 1, 2.
Oh, so
Yeah.
See the layers
light
of
blue's thicker.
Yep.
Okay.
So what do you think? What do you think that is? Take a guess.
Where were the minor offenses?
Major and minor offenses.
Oh, I bet you the, I don't know. I was thinking the top one is probably the negative behaviors. The bottom ones are the acknowledgements because there's more.
Exactly.
I don't know what the middle
Yep.
one is.
So this was encouraging staffs 4 to 1. So it was minors, majors, and acknowledgements.
Oh, okay, minors,
so you
majors.
didn't get another pad until you had given out all of those acknowledgements. So they were like forcing this 4 to 1 praise.
That's pretty good.
But when we talk about acknowledgements, we talked about it has to be genuine, it has to be specific. So we don't want staff just being like, oh crap, I need some more ODRs, so I'm quickly going to give these out. We want to ensure that we're following the same expectations. Because what
Do they
happens,
say that to you, John?
so that example, John, that you just gave of like, oh, here you go,
Right.
it waters down the acknowledgement. And I talked a little bit about a school that I supported that implemented and
Picked up
it
my
failed.
phone.
And that was a lot of what was happening. Teachers were giving out acknowledgements for like silly things like, oh, you're wearing pink today, I love pink. Well, loving pink has nothing to do with our school-wide expectations. And students were realizing that there wasn't staff buy-in to giving the acknowledgements. The acknowledgement meant nothing because it wasn't tied to any of the expectations. And they were just giving them out like, what do you give out freely? Not candy. But just giving things out without it being tied to the expectation with specific praise. Again, that observable behavior tied to the expectation. So being careful about the system that you set up for acknowledgement. Yes, we want to encourage this 4 to 1 ratio, but again, we want that praise and acknowledgement to be specific and meaningful to students.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
So the 4 acknowledgements to 1 ODR, are those 4 acknowledgements supposed to go to that student that got the ODR?
So we're looking at school-wide.
Okay.
So in your classroom, yes,
So
you want a 4 to 1 ratio in your classroom of corrections to praise. But as a school, so I believe that, I don't know if it was one of your outcomes that you hoped for, it might be another school that I'm working with, but was going to look at how many acknowledgements are being given, so if it's a ticket system, how many tickets are we giving students, and how many ODRs are we giving, and is there a balance and ratio there?
Okay.
So just looking at overall numbers. But you're right, you're gonna wanna look really specifically at students too, because typically what happens is,
Are you giving them enough technology?
yes, so if the students, gotten many ODRs, are we also giving them many acknowledgements? And sometimes that goes to, we had a nice discussion at a training that I had done about even just giving out those acknowledgements. So if a student's really struggling with behavior, those who really wanna focus on the acknowledgement system. So yes, you're gonna be giving acknowledgements to students who do well. However, those students do well, so we really wanna get our kiddos who are struggling on board. And that means that you might need to be reinforcing them for attempts. So they're still struggling on doing their assignment, they might be grunting, but they're working hard. I see you working really hard, that's trying our best in our classroom and giving that acknowledgement. So it might take a little mindset shift for staff to acknowledge an attempt. And for that student, that acknowledgement is gonna maybe make them work even harder. Again, notice that I use the language of the expectation of trying their best. For students who have specific behavior support plans, we are going to be acknowledging those replacement behaviors. So if we're saying for a student that taking a break is an acceptable behavior rather than running from the classroom, if they raise their hand and ask to take a break, I'm going to say, you know what, you're showing respect by asking to take a break instead of running from my classroom. Thank you for doing that, and give an acknowledgement. So being clear about that as well, that we're giving more acknowledgements actually to our more challenging students.
But we're still using them for it.
Yes.
Right,
Yep.
cause like if I'm only rewarding the one kid that's misbehaving, the other kids are like,
Right.
where's mine?
Exactly, you want to acknowledge all. And we're going to talk a little bit about when do you fade acknowledgements, when do you fade kind of support. So you're going to be highly reinforcing the student who's struggling in the beginning, but then you're going to need to have a fade plan. But yes, you want to acknowledge all students. Remember, the system is set up for all, not just the struggling. Missy, I felt like there was a...
No, I'm just like, and I said to Jamie, I really like, you know, what she said at her other school with the card system, and already I'm just like, whether it's ADD or not, but I'm just sitting here saying, okay, that's something I definitely want to use, because I'm finding with my own, personally, like, the tracking, the data, I'm not, you know, so this way here, like, you know, you have, each student has a little thing, and I know exactly where I'm gonna put it, like a bulletin board.
Yeah.
MEAD, so like, the M might be, made a great decision, and, you know, E, like she said, and on the, if they're gonna be push pins, the other side, what no one sees, would be things like the, I don't wanna say poor, you know, negative, but like keeping track of homework, disrespect, poor decision, you know.
So I'm going to encourage a couple things here.
Go
We
ahead.
want consistency across the school and
Right,
classrooms.
no, I know, I'm just
Yep.
saying for me to roll, like,
Yep.
right now in my class, like, you know.
The other
I
piece
know.
that, and I'm gonna also encourage is tying it to your expectations. So I like how you tried to use me, the school name, but you might wanna actually, I'm gonna encourage you to stick to show respect, try our best, and stay safe. And what is that? And what is that, how is that defined in your
Okay.
classroom? Cause you want that continuous tie between your classroom and the school-wide. Gosh, there was another piece that I wanted to say. And again, that might be a classroom strategy that you use in your classroom. If it works really well, how are we ensuring other classroom teachers have that same type of system? Gosh, you mentioned something else, so now I'm
A negative
flipping
thing?
it. It's gonna come to me.
I don't know.
No, it'll come back to me at another moment.
Because
I'm
a lot
like,
of
oh,
times,
that's what I wanted
the
to
things
say.
like the negative things, like, I'm not going to
Oh.
fill out an ODR for that.
Yep.
But it's good, like, say, even if you do come to a PBT or a 504, that you have that immediate, and I just think it's, instead of going through notebooks, this and that, it's perfect. That's just for me, I don't know.
That was the other piece that I wanted to share. Remember when we talked about our matrix and we had behavior definitions for some of our expectations, so showing respect, trying our best, staying safe? We can also have academically tied behaviors to those. So you talked about bringing in homework. That's trying our best. So in your classroom, you might want to define your behaviors socially, behaviorally, and academically. So students are tracking their
Right.
behavior both ways. And typically what we see, especially from secondary schools, they like that tie because they'll say their
Right.
teachers have a harder time buying in with the behavior piece. But if we can make the academic tie, so what are academic behaviors that we're looking for, that tie to showing respect, trying our best, and staying safe. So homework completion, being prepared for class, transitioning to activities, those can all be part of your definitions in your
Okay,
classroom. And if we didn't give you that example next time, I can provide you that example of just how that grid is split between your expectations, behavior, and social. I have a good example that I can pull up. But thank you. All right, so that is where we are with step 7. There's a couple action items that I believe you were taking note of. Again, I'm going to give you those guideline pieces this afternoon when we go further into your action step. And now Missy's going to, oh, I don't remember this slide.
I don't either.
Oh, this is showing the data, 10 to 1. This was positive acknowledgements versus ODR. So this was somebody sharing their data of positive acknowledgements with their ODR data. Oh, I did not have this slide noted. But this is something that you could share with staff as far as look at how many gotchas, so those are their positive acknowledgements, versus level 1 offenses, and they had no ODRs, which, wouldn't that be nice? But they were at a 10 to 1 ratio. So I'm assuming this is a school that's been implementing for a while, really bought in staff, students who are taught explicitly and know exactly what the expectations are. All right. Now you can